Welcome back, guys. In this video we're going to talk about how to create admin menu in WordPress dashboard using plugin. So in case if you want your user to enter some of the information that you're going to save in the database for your plugin use, obviously we need to create a menu in the dashboard. So we'll learn how to do that in this tutorial. So let's say our plugin would want to create a taxonomy. Our plugin basically creates custom taxonomies and custom post types. Okay, and I want to create a menu over here so that I can get some information from the user to know what is the name of the custom post type he wants to create, what is the name of the custom taxonomy, does it want it to be hierarchical or not. So all of that information we need just like this. So you can see that this is the admin menu. So these are basically the admin menus. This dashboard is an admin menu, post is an admin menu. These are the default ones that WordPress already provides. But if you want to create an additional one over here using your plugin, using your codes, you can do that. So that's what I'm going to explain. So you can create a new menu over here, and when the user clicks on this menu, you will have this kind of a setting page that the user can enter information. That information will be saved in the database. So let's begin then. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file inside of my includes folder of my plugin. Okay, so let's do that, and the name of the file would be admin menu builder. So let's see, PHP file, admin menu builder. Okay, so let's go ahead and give the not admin menu builder, sorry. We already have that file, sorry. Okay, it will be create admin menu, because we want this file to create an admin menu, and that's why we are naming it that way. It's always good to name your files of what they do, so it's easier for someone to look at them and know what they're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and define the header for this file. Let's increase the font. So custom functions for creating admin menu settings for the plugin, and the name of our plugin is admin menu. All of these codes will be there on the GitHub, so I'll leave a link in the description box, so you can take it from there. You don't have to actually type it. Great. Okay, so we've got the header. So what we're going to do basically is create a custom function. We are naming it as IHS create post tax menu, and that's the name of the function to create menu for the plugin in the dashboard. Okay, and then I'm using add menu page to create a page for our menu section. Okay, the first parameter it accepts is create post tax plugin settings. So basically it's the page title, then create post tax, then administrator, which is the capability, menu title. This is all I'll explain to you in a moment, but just run through it. Okay, menu slug, which is basically the file path up until here, and then a custom function to create the form, and then what icon do you want to be displayed. So if you go on to the dashboard, you can see these are the icons. So what icons do you want? So you can go ahead and search for Dashicons, for example. So if you go on to developer.wordpress.org, resource Dashicons dashboard, Dashicons basically up until this path, then you will see that for the admin menu you have different icons that you can use, which are called Dashicons because they are used in dashboard. And let's say if you want this particular one, just click on it and you can see that this is the name that you need to copy. So since I'm using a different one, I'm using a Dashicon email. So basically that one is, let's see, Dashicon email. So it's right here inside of social. You can use any of them. Inside of social, you click on this one, you get the Dashicon email. That's the name, and that's the one you need to use as the last parameter, which is icon URL is the parameter that you use over here. Okay, I haven't defined this function just yet, but just to know it's coming in a moment. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and call the register setting function, which is basically another function that we're going to define in a moment, and hook it to admin init hook. And we are hooking this function to admin menu hook of WordPress so that the admin menu can be created. And to register the settings of this admin menu, we are going to create a function called register IHS post settings, to post tag settings, and hook it to the admin init hook. So just to recap, to create the menu, we create a custom function and call add menu page function and hook our custom function to admin menu hook. And to register the settings of that page, we use add action inside of our custom function and call a custom function, another custom function, to register settings and hook it to admin init hook. I know it's all sounds confusing, but as and when you do it, it'll become easy. So you can rewatch the video if you want. Once you go through it all over first time. Okay, great. So the next thing, we're going to define that function for register settings basically. So this function basically is what we're going to register now. So we've created this function, and the job of this function is basically to register the settings. Okay, it takes a first parameter as the option group. So this is a unique name we create to register the group of settings, and then it also accepts the option name. So whatever, since this all information is going to be saved into WP options inside of the database, what will be the name of the option is what we're going to describe over here. So if you go over here into the database, and if you go on to the, okay, wait a second, WordPress testing, WP options is the name of the folder. I don't know if you can zoom it or not. Yeah, I can zoom it. So WP options is the name of the folder where it's going to be saved, and under the column name, which is option name, so that's the option name value basically. So if you come over here, option name, and what will be the value, what will be the name of the option is what we're going to define over here. So this is the option name, and then whatever, basically this part is basically this one. Okay, and then whatever the value comes in will be saved over here. It all will be clear in a moment, just be with me. Okay, great. Next thing we're going to do is basically you can see that this was the function over here, IHS post tags form func, which is a parameter inside of add menu page. This function is responsible to create a form basically that you get to see there. So I'm just gonna take that, copy that. So this function is basically containing the form. Okay, I will explain everything line by line, but for now just be with me. Okay, so this function is IHS post tags form func. So that's basically the parameter over here, and this function is responsible to create a form. As you can see that it's got the div with the heading tag, and then it's got the form which ends over here. The submit button function will create a submit button, heading tag, and then you've got the setting fields, 2 setting sections, all of these functions being called to go ahead and do the settings, and we will use the same unique name, which is option group, that we have used over here. Okay, and then you've got the table inside of which you've got the TRT, STD, all of that stuff going on. Okay, so I'll be clear in a moment. I'll just comment this out for now. Okay, so let's go back to our dashboard and see if that's created. Let's refresh the page. Okay, looks like something is missing. Okay, of course, we haven't included this file just yet, hence it's not showing over there. So let's include this file, create admin menu inside the includes folder. Just going to copy this name, go into my functions.php. Remember that our main file for our plugin is this admin menu builder, which is inside of the root directory of our plugin directory. So over here we're including custom functions.php, and inside of the custom functions.php we're including the style sheets and the scripts for front end as well as back end. We are defining constant, and this is where we're going to include our file. Okay, so let's include this on the top. So let's say include. This is the name of the file. So we'll say require once. And this is in the includes folder. In fact, let's go ahead and put that at the bottom. Why? Because tomorrow if you want to write some settings, define some CSS and JS for this file, that won't be available because the file is defined on the top. So let's do it at the bottom. Okay, so what this is going to do is basically, this is our main plugin file. It's going to include the custom functions.php, which is here. Custom functions is going to in turn include the create admin menu function. So basically everything is being included in the main file because this file is including custom functions.php, and custom functions.php is including the create admin menu.php. Okay, now if we go ahead and save this and go back to the backend dashboard, refresh the page, and sure enough you can see that it just created the create post tags, which is a new setting page. You click on it and you can see all of these is available. Ignore this error is coming because I haven't defined one function, but it will be clear to you in a moment. Just ignore all of this. Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and explain to you what's going on line by line. Okay, so over here this is the first function, which is basically responsible to create the menu for your plugin, and we are hooking it into the admin menu hook. Inside of this I'm calling admin menu page function. The first parameter is the page title, create post tags plugin settings, and that's what it is over here. So if you see create post tags, okay, and then over here if you look at it, it says create post tags plugin settings. So the page title on top over here is what is being defined over here, the first parameter. The second parameter is basically the menu title, which goes at this point. So you can see that create post tags is same as the create post tags mentioned over here. So it's the same text. Next is capability. So who has got the access to it? It's the admin. Okay, then the menu slug is basically going to return the URL up until this particular file that we're using. Then the function name, which is IHS post tags form function, which is the function being called over here. This is basically the job of this function is to generate the form for you. So basically this form right here. Okay, let's go next. Then the next one is the Dashicon email, and this is basically the icon URL which we can get from here on this page. Okay, that we're going to use. So since we've used the envelope, you can see that we've got the this particular icon. If we change the icon from here, obviously to something else, let's say this one. If I change that, come over here, change it, and then go back, refresh the page, and sure enough we've got a plugin one now. Right, so that's how it works, and we'll go next to the next line. The next line is add action, add admin init, register IHS post tag settings. So we're going to create a custom function, which is basically this function to register the settings of this page and hook it to the admin init hook and call the add action into our custom function, this one, which is in turn hooked to admin menu hook. Okay, now over here this is the register setting function that I've already explained. This is basically to register settings. This is a unique name, which is the same name we're going to use at this point in settings field and do setting section. And then we're going to use the option name is basically the name option name that you're going to use to store information inside of the WP options table, because all of the information that's the user enters over here is going to be saved in the WP options table, and each of these fields will be separately saved with that particular name over here, which will be clear in a moment. Let's go back next. Inside of this function, you've got the div, you've got the h1 tag, post and taxonomy generated settings, and that's the same name which you can see over here, post and taxonomy generated settings. Next one, then you've got the form method as post. Make sure that the action is equal to options.php because you know, that's where it needs to go to register settings. So I think options.php must be a file that WordPress already has into somewhere in probably in the admin or includes folder, and that's where this form must be getting processed. Okay, and then it says h1 tag custom post generated settings, and that's what we see over here. Then you have the table, then you have the settings field. Basically this function is to set the fields, do settings section, and make sure you use the same group name that you've used over here as the first parameter in the register setting function. Then the next thing what we're doing over here is creating a table, which is a form table, and just use the same classes and everything, same structure basically, because you know, if you go on to WordPress codex, so on the WordPress codex you will find you know, these codes basically. Okay, you can use a different one if you want to style them, but you know, it's preferable to use this one. It's up to you. Okay, so then custom post name is the table heading, custom post name, then the label, then we are naming it as IHS custom post name. So basically the name of this input field, this one, is IHS custom post name, and this is the same name that we are defining over here, needs to be used over here. Okay, so that's the options name, and that's the name of that particular field, and it's gonna use whatever the value comes over here. It's gonna insert that into WP options table under this option name. Okay, and similarly for the others. And over here as well, inside of the value, we're going to use get options. So get option basically, as we all know, gets the value of that particular option name. So option name is IHS custom post name, as you can see. This is the one. And basically, once you save the information into the database, as you can see that I had done it previously, it's retrieving that information from the database. So if you go over here and look for the IHS, let's see, let me just search it to save time. Okay, then we're looking for this particular option name, paste it, search it. You can see that IHS post name, the value is product, right? So basically the value will be equal to product, and it's coming from the database. That's why you see that displayed over there. Okay, next one is create taxonomy settings. So basically that's the heading. So if you want to create a different section over here, you create a different section, and inside of it, if you want to have another table, you can do that. So keep adding rows. So probably if this was a one part, then inside of the table you can have different TR and TDs. And then if this was a second part, you can do a heading and then create another table for it. You can see it starts over here and ends over here. Inside of it you have two TRs basically for custom taxonomy name and to get the hierarchical values. Okay, right. Similarly, we have used the IHS custom name, custom tax name for the taxonomy name, and that's what we've defined over here. So each time for each input field you need to use register settings. So since I have three input fields, 1, 2 and 3, hence I need to use the register setting 3 times with the same option group name but different option name. So this is the name of the input field. You can see IHS custom post name is over here. Similarly for the other input taxonomy name, you have IHS custom tax name, which is the same option name used here, and similarly for the IHS hierarchical it's another register setting. So for each input field you need to do register setting, and for each input field you need to use get option using escape attribute and echo it out, so that the value that's being saved in the database is getting returned when the user clicks on save changes. Okay, so over here in the next one, hierarchical, we are using basically the two input fields. One is for yes and for no. Okay, and we have defined another function for this, so I'll show that to you. We'll define that function over here. Inside of this function, which is a custom function, I'm creating an array called checked array, and I'm passing two properties and values called check yes and check no. I'm setting their values to be null, to be empty at the first time. Then we are saying that checkbox value is equal to get option IHS is hierarchical, which means hierarchical. Okay, so whenever the user selects this, whatever value gets stored into this input field is what is going to be stored over here. Okay, so the name was IHS is hierarchical. Let's search for it. And you can see the value is no. So whatever value comes over here will be stored inside of checkbox val. If it is yes, then checked array checked yes is equal to check, which means this value should be as checked. If no, then this value should be checked. Okay, and then get the checked array. So basically what this is doing is get the value from the database. If it is yes, then make the check yes is equal to checked, and check no will be empty. And if it is the value of the input field is no, if the user has selected no over here, then go ahead and set the value of check no as to be checked and check yes to be empty. And so at the end, in our situation, since user has selected no, like in my previous time before making this video, I had selected no. Okay, hence checked array value, checked array and checked no will be checked. So if I come over here, okay, why am I not getting that? Okay, I've commented this out. So at this point, I'm just calling this function basically. I just get checked val, and I'm storing the array value into checked array, and I'm just calling the values. So in case if the user selected yes, the value will be yes, and this will be blank, this will be empty. And if the user selected no, then this value will be no, and this value basically will be, this one will be checked, and this one will be empty. Okay, so that's what will happen over here. So basically, I will have the checked displayed over here or here. Okay, so now if we go ahead and refresh the page, first I'm going to just remove all of these values. Okay, so I want to name the custom post to be, let's say, product, or this time let's choose something else, let's say books. If I save that, then idly if I go and look for the input name, which is IHS custom post name, and I look for that in the WP options table, I'll see that the value of the IHS custom post name is books. Right? If I refresh the page, you can see that you've got books already printing there. Is because I'm using the get option function inside of the input field to set the value as that. So if you just inspect element, you can see that the value is books, and that's what's coming from get options basically. Similarly, for the taxonomy name, let's name it as science, and you click on save changes. Save changes button is basically coming from our submit button function. Okay, you can see that science is saved. If you check inspect element, the value is science for this input element, and it's coming because of get option I just got custom tax name. And if you copy this and check that into the database under WP options folder and look for this option name, then you'll see that the value is signed, so it's been saved into the database. Okay, great. And then if I select yes as the value, you can see that inside of this save changes and inspect element, you can see this value is showing as checked. So what's happening over here is that at this point we are calling this function. This function basically is going to create an empty array with these, not empty array, but with these properties, but empty values for these properties. We are going to get the value from the database for IHS hierarchical. In our situation, let's get the value from the database. Search under the WP options table. The value is yes. So under this situation, it's going to check this condition. Is the value yes? Yes. So this condition will be met. This condition will be ignored. So now it's going to set the check the yes value, which means this value will become checked. So I'm just writing it to tell you that's what will happen. So in this situation, this value will become checked, okay, and this will be empty because we haven't stored anything. And then it's going to return this array. So this array now has this as checked. Okay, now if you scroll down, because this function is returning this array and this array is containing checked yes is equal to checked, over here in this input field, which is the yes button, because we are calling this, we are accessing the value of this property checked yes, it will be selected over here, and that's what's happening over here. If you check in this input field, it's showing as checked over here because after yes we are calling this, and this will be empty, hence the next element will not have that as checked, and that's why it is checked. Okay, so this is basically getting the values from the database. I'm gonna put that back. Okay, so I think that's about it. So that's what's happening in the database. Just to give you a recap of what we discussed. So basically, I'm going to define a custom function to go ahead and create the menu. So to create the menu over here and hook it to admin menu function. Inside of this function, I'll call the admin menu page to create the menu. First parameter is basically the title of the page, which is here. Second parameter is the create post tags, which is the menu title, which is here. Next one is the capability, which is admin has got the capability to access this. Then this is the URL of this file using file constant. Then is the function to create the form, which we have defined at the bottom. Then the Dashicon icon, what icon will be displayed over here, this one. Then the next thing we're doing is basically calling add action and hooking our register IHS post setting, which is the custom function to register settings. You need to use register setting function for each of the input fields. So since we're using 3 input fields, we have done the registration setting 3 times using the same option group, unique name, and putting the name, option name, same as the names of these input fields. So input field, this name, and this name is being put over here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, then we are checking the we are defining a custom function inside of which we are getting the value from the database, what user selected, yes or no, and then passing that value and returning that value basically, and then accessing that value to make sure that the specific element has been selected of whatever the value comes from the database. And then finally we are calling this, we are using this function basically to define our complete form. All of that I won't get into detail, I've already explained them. So I hope you did like the video. If you did, please do subscribe to my channel and share my videos with others. Give you a thumbs up, and please do write your comments, give your suggestions, so that it's always motivating and encouraging to help you guys. Okay, cool. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.